you know Port of Rotterdam, I'm sure, because everybody is from the sector here. It's the biggest port in Europe still. Used to be the biggest in the world. The port itself is 42 kilometers long. It plays a multifunctional role. It's a gateway port. It's a transshipment hub, but it's also an industrial cluster. And I will keep it relevant to the discussion today. The port houses 4 crude oil refineries today, 45 petrochemical companies, vegetable oil refineries, and 3 biofuel plants. In terms of its contribution to the Dutch economy, it's quite phenomenal. Netherlands is a very small country, as you know. The only few things which are big in Netherlands, and Rotterdam, Port of Rotterdam probably is one of those. It contributes 2.9% to the Dutch GDP in terms of whatever we have in the port premises, and also indirect contribution to our GDP. Very important, I'll come that to later, is that the port actually transacts 13% of the total EU energy consumption needs. And that is very relevant for the discussions today. Because of the location and because of very good connections, we can reach, within 24 hours, a population size of 500 million. That's quite substantial. The port is not new, started many centuries ago, but of course the port at that moment was very much within the premises of the city, and it has expanded outside. And that is the nature of very many ports and very many cities, like Mumbai, for example. If you think about Port of Mumbai, if it has to expand, it has to expand in a similar manner. It is a corporation, but it is owned by the government. 70% is owned by the city government of Rotterdam and 30% by the Dutch national government. In terms of the governance model, we split the investment roles with the private stakeholders. We are responsible for building the infrastructure, including the digital infrastructure. And the private companies, of course, they play the role of building the superstructures to run the industrial complexes. And that makes it possible for development of large-scale infrastructures, as you can see some of the things which are here. In terms of throughput, the port at this moment is about 439 metric tons, 11th largest. But what is interesting to see here is 40% of that total tonnage comes from liquid bulk. And as you can imagine, a big chunk of that, the biggest chunk of that is from oil and gas. Please keep that as a point of reference. And then, like I say, of this total bulk that comes in, 13% of the total EU energy consumption passes through Rotterdam. And then juxtapose that with the reality that we as Netherlands are 10 meters below the sea level. The moment you land in Schiphol, you'll see -10 in your altitude meter. If you combine all these things together, it just becomes very natural that we need to do something for energy transition, if not for anything fanciful, but for our survival. And that is what we are doing today. We are very much playing a leading role for the port, but also for Netherlands and EU in terms of defining the energy transition. And how we do that, we have an energy transition strategy divided into 4 pillars. I'm sure this is nothing new or nothing different from anything that you are doing, but this is the way we are structured. And today, this 4-pillared energy strategy is, of course, defining the port today to be the port of tomorrow. The port looks like this today. This is the reserve area, which is not utilized. This area, Maslakte 2, as we call it, is for logistic services today. And then these are the areas for storage, and these are the areas where the industries are housed. But then it is going through a transition. This area is going to be the bio-based and circular industrial area very soon. This is going to be mostly for logistic services and the new electrification needs that will be required to run all the energy transition programs. Storage, of course, the storage will stay, but repurpose. Today, where we are storing fossil fuel, tomorrow we'll be storing hydrogen, ammonia, and any other more sustainable fuels. Industry, a lot of the industries today will probably have to change. Some will close down, new industry will come up. And even for the industries which will not change, or which will continue, the feedstock and processes will have to be changed. Now, if we take up the 4 pillars, there are many things which are happening today. Many of the speakers before me, Madam Sankar also referenced to the 2050 targets. Many others have also referenced to that. Mr. Vakri also said that. We are targeting to be carbon neutral by 2050, and by 2030, 55% reduction of CO2. These are, in a way, kind of global targets, and we are no exception to that. In all the 4 pillars, we are doing a lot of projects. It will not be possible for me to kind of go through all the projects, but I love to whenever we get another time or moment to interact. I'll just touch upon a little bit on pillar 2, 3, and 4, because that is highly relevant also from the Indian context. Each of the pillars also provides the possibility for building the collaboration between Netherlands and India. If we go to the second pillar, which is about energy production, and we have been talking about green fuel, hydrogen is one of those key elements in the green fuel, then Rotterdam plays a key role in terms of two things. It is going to be Europe's energy production hub, green production hub, but it is also going to be the gateway for receiving green hydrogen, green ammonia, green methanol. That will be exported from other countries, including India. And to be able to be ready for that, we are already investing on our ecosystem within the port premises. As you can see here, there we are talking about storage facilities, we are talking about carbon capture facilities, and we are talking about electrification and all the other infrastructural changes that would be required to support the new industry in the future. Offshore farms are being developed, 7.4 gigawatt to be completed by 2030, and that will be fueling the green hydrogen production and green ammonia production on the premises. Cutting it short. But production, as many of you already have highlighted, is not going to be feasible. It's going to be very expensive. We do not have the capacity to produce that much. So we'll have to look into countries like India. And honestly, Mr. Vakri knows it very well. In the last 3 years, or probably just after COVID, we have this conference called the World Hydrogen Summit. In the first World Hydrogen Summit, now we can be proud of that. But in the first World Hydrogen Summit, India was nowhere in the picture. Nobody spoke about India. Nobody discussed about India. Nobody dreamt about India. Second, already changed. Everybody was starting to think about or raising a question about, okay, is India really going to be that serious? Or is India really that serious? Third World Hydrogen Summit, India had the biggest pavilion amongst all the participating organizations and countries in the World Hydrogen Summit. Fourth World Hydrogen Summit, India was in the inaugural dais. Our Secretary MNRE was speaking there. We had a grand reception. Everybody's looking at India. So this map, of course, doesn't have that many colors, but I think India's name can be written in bold letters, if not already here. And of course, a lot has to happen, but that is the belief, the faith has developed. Well, like I said, to be able to support that, to be on the receiving end, a lot of infrastructure has to be developed. FIDs on many have been called. When you talk about ammonia, we're a little bit ahead, much ahead than the rest. Methanol the same, and for liquid hydrogen and LOHC, we have very concrete plans. Production as well, the Shell 200 megawatt hydrogen plant will be commissioned this year. And just last week or the week before, I think you may have seen the Air Liquide 200 megawatt project taking an FID. The slides had been sent to me by my colleagues last night, and I feel Port of Rotterdam sometimes is more bureaucratic than Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Netherlands. I could not change anything without, first of all, taking a clearance from the communication team. So I could not put that tick there. But if you look at the second project, Alligator Air Liquide, that project has taken a FID. And we are building the pipeline network, of course, within the premises of the port, but also extending all the way to the Rhine corridor, the Rhine industrial belt of Germany. If somebody asks us today, well, if I bring in all the projected cargo on green hydrogen, and your pipelines are not ready, how does it work? Actually, that is not a problem. A lot of barging happens on liquid hydrogen already. If we look at our barging capacity and our barging infrastructure, that is sufficient to carry all the liquid hydrogen or hydrogen that can come to the Rotterdam port and take it all the way to Basel in Switzerland. And these are the kind of the off-takers that are possible. A lot of hydrogen projects, as you can see there. Not everything has taken an FID, but you can see a lot of those names. I'll skip this as well. Was skipping this. Second pillar, very quickly, very critical, is about new feedstock and new fuel system. One thing is very critical here, and that word is also there, critical mineral. Why is that critical? because if you're talking about building the economy of tomorrow, if we talk about transition, be it energy transition or be it talking about building resilient supply chain, then critical raw materials play the most crucial role. I'm taking just an example here, how our energy transition, how our digitalization, air and space and defense is dependent on few of the critical minerals. And I have taken some key technologies and some dependencies on key materials there. But what is the issue here? The issue is the demand for critical raw materials for lithium, graphite, cobalt, nickel is going to grow by many times over. But at this moment, the country which has got a complete monopolistic control on this is China. Not just in terms of mining, in mining as well, they're lucky to have a lot of the things within their premises. But when it comes to refining, China has by far the most control on critical raw material. And we all know that we need to build resilience in our supply chain. So we are looking for alternatives here. And that is where India comes in. And that is where the European regulations are also gearing towards. We do not want to have more than 65% of our sourcing of critical raw material from any country. And this is one area where already India and Netherlands are starting to talk together. India, European Union and India are talking together. And I look at also private participation. Port of Rotterdam will be a nodal company, nodal organization driving the strategy for the government of Netherlands. And we'll be seeing a lot on this from us. I'll skip this. Skip this. Mandates, share the presentation later. I can see you're looking at me. We'll skip this as well. I'll skip this as well. I'll quickly maybe touch on sustainable transport. We'll skip this slide. We all know this. We know this. I'll come to one slide here. Well, these are all regulatory driven. If it has to happen, a lot of the regulations will have to first fall in place. The port readiness for bunkering. We talk about bunkering. Yeah, quickly end up with this topic and then I'll stop here. So bunkering, Rotterdam, of course, is the world's second biggest bunkering base after Singapore. Singapore is by far bigger, of course, being the first one. And we have been testing with liquid ammonia, and we have done the cold ammonia bunkering of ships recently. That went successfully, and we have been bunkering green methanol since 2023. So these are things that we are already starting to do. And shore power, we are doing that. We have already done it for the cruise terminal, and we are slowly rolling it out for the other cargo as well. This is an interesting one. Net zero ship, Samskip, carrying liquid hydrogen. Of course, this is a digital image, not a reality. But there's an interesting thing. This is, I would call it a India-Norwegian-Dutch collaboration. Green hydrogen produced in Norway would be shipped to Netherlands and will be in containers, and then we'll be bunkering the green hydrogen, liquid hydrogen. But the ship itself is made in India. Cochin Shipyard is the one who is making this ship. And there'll be many of those, 3 or 4 of those that will be built. Samskip is a Dutch company. Inland shipping, also things going on. I will not do there. Let's stop here. Building the future together. That was the essence of what many of the speakers have also highlighted. Not just people to people, country to country, but everybody needs to work together here. And with that, I would like to thank you for the time and for listening to me. There's the last slide, which is not there. That's good. Thank you very much.